You hear it? You will hear the laughter of thousands in the sky.
I am normally not one to jump onto the bandwagon, but in this instance, I have seen too many people talking about it, and too many people traumatized by it. I have to. For those of you who are fortunate enough to not know what I'm talking about, here's your chance to run away. The boiling man phenomenon. Now I know I normally always say that I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I actually have not a single clue as to what I am getting myself into. All I have seen is the image, and that's about it. So I suppose there's no time like the present. So let's put on our extra pants and head on into what will more than likely change us as people. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below, and be sure to follow us up on our new second channel, 4Player, where we have 3 parts out for our new Outlast Trials series. But anyways, now you can pass through. The very first thing we see in this is just a white screen and this squiggly black line, but it's only for about a frame before we get some text. Just letting us know that this is actually legal to watch, and that everyone's identities have been kept hidden per request. I know I said this might change us as people, but this warning messages make me think that this actually might change us as people. Or at least it certainly has the potential to. We are told to make sure we have earplugs, a pencil, a sheet of paper, and a standard Christian Bible open to this specific verse. Is this something like the fear assessment or some kind of test I'm gonna have to take? Oh, it actually looks like our earplugs are for safety, in case we hear unusual voices in our head. Our piece of paper is also so we can try to ground ourselves into reality by writing down, I can see this paper, I can see my hand, I can't hear the screaming of thousands, I can't hear the feast. I am a moving, breathing human being on planet Earth. There is a quick frame where we are instructed to write something a lot more sinister. I can't see this paper, I have no hand, I can hear the laughter of thousands, I can hear the feast, I cannot move, nor do I want to. Okay, so I am not going to be writing that part down. After writing down this phrase, we are then instructed to recite that one Bible verse aloud. No evil shall befall you, and no plague shall come near your dwelling. It's said that if memories and imagery of something unholy persist in your mind, praying is all you can do. If such an event does occur, we are instructed to call authorities, to which will be administered amnestics, which is some memory-altering drug. Kinda like Freddy Krueger and all the hospital kids. It's also said that many appear to lead a normal life afterwards. Just look at this guy. Seems pretty normal to me. Does everyone have their essential items necessary? Good, because it looks like this thing is starting. August 13th, 2003. Tree of Heaven. We learn that in the late 1990s, a now classified documentary-based television program debuted from a local station in Pennsylvania. Your average nature documentary, going over plants and animals, and was said to be primarily directed towards kids. I gotta say, something about these stills seemed to look very familiar to me, like I had seen this show before. It said the start of the show would talk about the wonders and dangers of nature, as well as how to protect yourself from it, and to appreciate it. Sounds like a pretty stand-up guy. In 2011, however, the program got taken off the air after the host passed away. This makes what happens next even more odd. On August 13th, 2003, the 13th episode of this series began to rerun out of nowhere on air. We get to hear the audio for the first couple parts of the episode, but it appears like what we're seeing is a compilation of clips throughout the series. Everything about this broadcast seems normal, almost too normal. However, it is said that during one of the interlude segments, a signal hijacking would take over and begin to broadcast videos of a red melted face that spoke to the viewer. What the hell? This is something Adult Swim would pull at like 3 a.m. The face is then given its new name, Fen228. I don't know if it's supposed to be said like that, but that's how I'm gonna say it. What's even more disturbing is that clips of live camera feed from hospitals and bedrooms would be overlaid onto the screen to obscure Fens228's face. It's also stated that as many people remember it speaking in English, a ton of non-English viewers can recall understanding every word that it had spoken. What we are about to see next is the restored recording of the broadcast. It's said the duration of the clip had been shortened, and the audio had been muffled, reversed, and dampened. This is all said to be necessary to suppress its hazardous attributes. It's very imperative that you all know just how impactful saying what we are about to see next could damage us is. Obviously, nothing shown to us can actually do us any physical harm, But the fact that we are being warned that it could is enough to leave me questioning on if I actually want to proceed, or leave me asking myself if I should actually find some earplugs. The psychology behind it is super fascinating, and this is utilizing it perfectly. What we are then presented with is something that can only be described as pure nightmares. Almost like a tape found from the ring, this feels like subliminal messages are being forced into my brain. Our creature speaks in reverse, but a quick comment search and we've got a translation. The very memory of my face will cause a manifestation of my being in the future. You will be asleep in bed. I will be there and watch over you. When you wake, you will not be able to move any part of you. When the doctors eventually find you, they will not see me, but you will. And I'll see you too. Forever, I'll see you too. Now, if that isn't some cryptic ass shit, I don't know what is. It's almost taking that horrific feeling of sleep paralysis and making it even worse somehow. The broadcast we just witnessed has been given the title Broadcast 813. Apparently, about 530 residents throughout the southern Pennsylvania area viewed that segment, and I'm sure there are now 530 incredibly traumatized people with no more will to live. That actually isn't a too far off statement given what we learn next. Aside from the regular paranoia and discomfort Fen 228 brought to the people that watched it, there were other side effects that were heavily unnatural. For most people, they were unable to keep the image of Fen out of their minds, and some continued to hear its voice for days after. An anonymous victim claimed that the face was living in his brain and feeding on his spine, and another described trumpets playing in their ears before falling asleep. According to this bit of text here, these people have no idea what they are in for, and I don't think I am either. August 14th, 2003, the Great Northeast Blackout of 2003. In an effort to keep anybody else from seeing this broadcast, all power grids local to the state of Pennsylvania were disabled. Local to the state of Pennsylvania, my ass. The outage ended up spreading to various parts of New York, New Jersey, Ohio, and even Canada. This is now an international blackout, hence the name Great Northeast Blackout of 2003, where almost 50 million people were without power, some not getting it back until days later. So not only did you get a horrific, frightening entity take over your television, you then lose power for a multitude of days. During the blackout, every trace of Broadcast 813 were able to be collected and wiped from existence, seemingly. This includes news articles, internet posts, recordings, you name it. The cause of the blackout was covered up by a combination of human error and trees falling onto sagging power lines somewhere in Ohio. Okay, we believe you. While they might have thought this would lead everyone to forget about the whole thing, they would soon find themselves very wrong. Aftermath. It's said that 12 days after Broadcast 813 was blocked, a historically massive influx of pseudocoma occurred in the state of Pennsylvania, leaving 509 people affected. What's a pseudocoma, you may ask yourself? Well, it's a condition in which a patient experiences a cerebral medullospinal disconnection, leaving them to be conscious but unable to move or communicate verbally due to a complete paralysis of all voluntary muscles in the body, except for vertical eye movements and blinking. This sounds like an awful lot like the little cryptic message we got at the start. You remember the thing we were supposed to write down on the paper? Obviously, since this was such an anomaly, the government began its investigation immediately. The only thing in common between the paralyzed 509 victims is that they had all been at home watching TV the night Broadcast 813 was airing. We even see our friend peeking from behind. Since vertical eye movements and blinking were still something they were able to function, they were able to communicate through Morse code, which led to over 60 victims being interviewed. We learned that many of these interviews just created more questions, and many held results that required being archived or terminated. However, late into the investigation, the branch was notified of a particularly odd case revolving around this older victim. It said that he was a war vet, already fluent in Morse code, making him the first in line when it came to conducting these interviews. It said that after an odd photo was taken in his backyard, his family became deeply troubled and convinced his house was haunted. Lucky for us, this photo isn't too dangerous for us to see, but it's still recommended we give ourselves a 3 feet distance. Now that is quite a tall figure. So did our veteran see the broadcast and become paralyzed? Or did he see this photo and become paralyzed? According to him, He claimed that something horrible and unholy was within him, and would hurt him and possibly others if he described it and what it was telling him. We are now deep into the realm of the paranormal. We get to listen in on a recording in which an officer from the branch interviews our victim. The officer goes on to ask some questions after getting approval from our victim.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions regarding your condition? Did you notice any onset symptoms? Interesting.
Now we have our answer. He did end up seeing it on the television, and then it started appearing in photos around his house. Hey now, I see you creeping up in the back there. When asked if this is something his brain may have created, he responds with something very unsettling.
Do you think this is something your brain has created?
No, it's in the window. When asked to describe the face, he says, horribly burnt, not of Lord Christ. Our victim reports also hearing the trumpets play before he goes to bed. We even get a quick flash of some red Morse code which translates to, nobody but me and you. Our officer glitches out all of a sudden and our boiling man begins to creep up.
You shedding light on this is helping more than you know.
Our sign also has changed to, I can see you. You can see me? Uh-oh. We are then presented with the silhouette of our horrific figure, with text saying, wonderful day, the miracle of birth, a fetal fanfare. I'm pretty sure this is the unedited version of our broadcast 813. Hold on to your butts, people.
You hear it? You will hear the laughter of thousands as the sky opens up.
After we get all those frightening images, we are immediately warned that if we see this screen, it is not safe to keep watching, and the video ends on that verse repeated over and over. If I had to guess as to what was going on here, in my little bird brain, it sounds as if this boiling man entity needed to spread this mass message in order to set things in stone for a later world-ending apocalypse event. Remember back to that reverse message? The very memory of my face will cause a manifestation of my being in the future. Now I could be taking this too literally, but the video segment we saw at the end also talks about how we will hear the laughter of thousands as the sky opens up. It also looks like a good pool of blood pouring on down before a second crack opens up. It definitely is giving off an end of times feeling. It also doesn't seem too far that this hellish demonic entity would be able to take control of a broadcast and mass affect anyone who watched it. And the viewing of this message and the locking of all these bodies could in some way lead history into the right direction where the skies open up and the boiling man is able to eat away at the universe. I love the idea that this is so open to interpretation that even my outlandish theory can somewhat sound plausible. I gotta say, this was certainly an experience to say the least. I know a lot of people are tired of the "this found footage isn't authorized for viewing" gimmick that's in a lot of analog horror these days, but this definitely took that for a terrifying twist, that viewing this footage could in fact harm you, like it did these other 500 people. I always say it, but analog horror excels when it manages to make you feel like you aren't alone in the room, and that something else is watching you outside of the YouTube video. This video encapsulates that perfectly, with the hidden messages that can be found, some that are obvious like the sign in the bedroom, and some that are not so obvious like the 0.1 second flash of Morse code. Needless to say, it successfully managed to add a ton of layers in a short amount of time to where it certainly leaves you shaken up for a bit after. I wouldn't be surprised if I have to turn the lights on before I go to bed tonight after seeing this shit. But that was the Boiling Man. Be sure to check out the original creator, Dr. Knowhere. He has some other neat horror shorts on his channel that certainly look as horrific as ever. But as always, if you watched all the way until the end, I thank you for watching, and be sure to check out our new gaming channel 4Player if interested. We got some fun gameplay going up there hopefully once a week, and it's definitely a fun time. But other than that, I need to go and buy some night lights before I end up getting no sleep.